So it looks like I could recreate the same layout I created on the ground floor and all the other levels. So 1, 2, 3, 4. To quickly do that, I will select all the elements that I want to recreate higher. Let's make sure pipes, fittings, mechanical equipment. Okay. On my keyboard, click Ctrl C, deselect, go to Modify tab. In the clipboard panel, drop down this tool and pick an option aligned to selected levels. And then we can pick all the other levels where we want this element to be copied to. Might have to change some settings. Actually, let's see if we can use a view template for this. If I like the visibility settings of a specific view, I can close them in a group and call them a view template and apply it to other views. So to do that, I go to the View tab, Graphics panel, View Templates dropdown, Create Template from Current View. For now, I'm just going to call it Test Floor Plan. And I leave everything as is. Click OK. Go to the view where I want the same settings. Go to View Template. Right now we have a different view template applied. That's fine. Just click on this one, click OK. And this looks good. So what this view template is controlling is the visibility graphics. VG stands for visibility graphics. So if I click here, it opens that same window that we saw before. But it also controls a lot of other elements of a view. Scale, level of detail, and a lot more options. One of the most important one probably with the view range. View range shows you exactly how deep down and how far above from our level can we see elements where we are in the floor plan. And let's do the same for all the other views. So this, and this. I'm gonna actually select them from my project browser. And now that I have them selected, you can see in the properties we have 3 elements that belong to category view selected. I can change their view template all at once. Now if we go here, it's applied already. But one thing I didn't notice is that this wall is actually closer here. So we could potentially move this element a little closer to the wall here. And again, let's see if we can use some options to make it easier for us. I'm going to delete these elements for now. Make that change here and change these elements into a group. So to create a group, I make a selection. At the Modify tab, in the Create panel, I click Create Group. Now these elements have become a model group. I can only edit that now if I go into Edit Group mode. I'm gonna cancel this for now. I select this group, I click Ctrl C, and again I paste them to other levels. Tells me they're identical instances. Let's see. To find an element that Revit said is in a collision, I'm going to use the ID of that element that I saw in the warning report. I must have skipped something when I was selecting elements. I'm going to paste it just to the current view. I press SA on the keyboard, that select all. So we'll select all the groups. As you can see, selected all 4 instances of groups. Press X. Extend the selection box a little bit. And I think this looks correct. no, I think there's still something wrong here. HH to turn this off. This HR to reset this. Same here. Just gonna run a quick interference check. What happened here is it's not a real collision. Unfortunately, Revit doesn't recognize that these elements connect to one another, are not in a collision to one another. So that's why this we can ignore. Gonna run another interference checks just for pipes and pipe fittings for now. And also between just mechanical equipment. Okay, this is okay. If you'd like to, you can work in 3D in a perspective view instead of orthographic if this is more intuitive for you. Now, let's say that we are not interested in the underfloor heating design for the rest of this building. We just want to resolve it for this corner of the building and put that design on a sheet and print it out. First, how do we limit the visibility, the region of what is shown in the floor plan? To do that, I have to have nothing selected to see the view properties of our floor plan. Scroll down and the extents properties, find this crop view and crop region visible. I check both these boxes and it creates this window. So now I can manipulate exactly how much and which part of the building I see. I could do the same thing for all these views, but I can also make this a little easier for myself. I can use something called a scope box. First, I have to create. If you get this type of error, you have to go to your visibility setting. So let's see. So in our visibility graphic overrides, in the tab annotation categories, you can see that scope boxes visibility is unchecked. So let's check it. And now we see that scope box that we created. I'm going to delete this and create it one more time so we can see. So scope box tool, click, click, there it is. I want to see this scope box in the 3D, so I press BX. And I want the scope box to have in its range all the underfloor heating elements we just created. So I'm going to adjust it in the 3D. I think this does it. And now this crop region, instead of manually adjusting it, I can find the parameter scope box and check this scope box too. And now the crop region adjusts itself to the scope box. Gonna undo this. When I pick the scope box, the name of it's here. It's here. So I'm gonna call it UFH1 range, for example. And also I'm going to pin it so that I cannot accidentally move it and so that the crop region of all these views is exactly the same. So again, I can pick all these views and change the scope box for them. As you can see, it applied exactly the same crop region in all of these views. Let's also create a section here. So again, view tab, create panel, section. Let's say we want our section to go from here to here. And make sure that everything that we need is in that range of a section. As you can see, sections also can have a view template applied to them. This looks correct. We can see our scope box is here, so let's turn off its visibility. As this is just a tool to help us control the range of the floor plans. We don't really need it to be visible anywhere else. Okay, now that we have a part of our design created and also views, let's try to create a sheet to show them. In this template, we already have some sheets created, so we can actually use them. So to place a view on a sheet, we have to either find it in the project browser and just click on it and drag it to our sheet and click again to place it. You can then change its location. Another way to do it is to go to View tab, Sheet Composition panel, click on the view and pick it from this list. If we would like to change our cropped view at any moment, we have to activate our view on the sheet. As you can see now, the sheet is grayed out and these elements are active. And if I would want to change the shape of this viewport, first I have to unlock the scope box and then I can change it however I want. If I ever want to go back to the previous one, I can again apply the scope box. So another thing I want to do here is to show a title of this view. So from the type selector, see now it's a viewport, I pick an option, title, no line. And here we have the name of our view and the scale and the number of the drawing on the sheet. Maybe I'll move it a little bit so that the axes don't hang out. If instead of using an existing sheet, I would like to create a new one, I have to right click on sheets in the project browser and click new sheet. And here I have different title blocks. A title block is a template for a sheet and generally includes a border for the page and information about the design firm, such as its name, address, and logo. The title block can also display information about the project, client, and individual sheets, including issue dates and revision information. So these title blocks are prepared by Uponor, but there's also some different title blocks prepared by Autodesk, or you can create your own. However, it's easier to use the already prepared ones. Let's pick the biggest one. And again, we can drop some views here. For example, the section. Delete this. As you can see, when I delete this, it only deletes the viewport. Our view is still in the model. I'm gonna maybe change the scale of this. And let's see what happens if I try to put this view here. It tells me that this view is already placed on a different sheet. So views can only be used one time on sheets. If you would like to have two sheets with the same looking views, we have to duplicate it. So I'm going to right click here, duplicate view, duplicate with detailing, which means I'm also duplicating all annotation elements. Now it's called just the same name with the word copy one at the end. And this one I can place on the sheet. It should snap to the correct position, but if it doesn't want to, try to do it manually. I can pick on the title and move its position. By default, for a title, it takes the name of the view, but I can change the title that shows up just on the sheet, for example. I can use any views that I want on sheets. For example, I can also use the 3D view. If this is my default 3D view, I should again duplicate it. If I use a 3D view, it's a good practice to block it. I am making some adjustments to the sheet layout with the scale, title, and position of viewport.